Okay, today in class, you are working to complete your illustration from your body system. So my example has been based on the skeletal system, and I picked a subtopic of fracture, and I have completed an illustration. It's missing all of its information. Those pieces are in my notes. So yours probably has all of the information, the text, the labels, everything that you need. If you haven't finished this, obviously this is step one today, and you should be fairly close to finishing. You'll also notice that even though we're doing this as a pen and ink assignment, I have no ink at this point. I'm going to add ink as my next step, and so we're going to talk about that today. So when I have my illustration finished and I am ready to create this illustration, what I'm going to do is go over to the counter, and on the counter there is a pile of fresh sheets of drawing paper. So I'm going to grab a fresh sheet of drawing paper, and then I'm going to scoot down the counter and get a sheet of the transfer paper. So we used this before, and there are sheets of transfer paper. They'll be bigger than this one, but I'm going to put my transfer paper on top of my new drawing paper. So this is my new drawing paper on the bottom. Here's my transfer paper, and it's going to go darker side down. So darker down. So I'll put my transfer paper in here. Then I'm going to put my drawing, my rough draft of my illustration on top. I can then find there's a coffee mug on the counter as well, and I can paper clip this together so that it stays while I'm making my transfer. I am now going to ignore text. I don't want the words. I just want the pictures. Okay, we're making the picture layer so I can add the pen to my drawing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace this. I can trace this using my pencil. I can trace it using a pen. It doesn't matter what I trace it with. I do, however, want to make sure that before I go too far, like I'm just going to do a couple of little, just going to do 2 bones, and then I'm going to lift this up and I'm going to give it a peek, and I'm going to make sure that that's going down to my new sheet of paper. And it is going down to my new sheet of paper. If it's not, I kind of need to problem solve. Am I maybe not pushing hard enough? Do I have my transfer sheet the wrong way around, so it's not darker side down? And that this stuff is pressure sensitive too. So if I have an area that I want to be a little lighter, I can press a little lighter, and it will show up a little lighter on my sheet. You do want to transfer the entire thing before moving on, because once I move this off of here, it's not really going to be possible for me to line it back up, right? You also want to make sure that you've double checked your illustration for accuracy, right? So we've talked about using a grid. We've talked about measuring while we draw. We have done all of those things. Remember, I'm not tracing text right now. I am just tracing my illustration. Once you have finished tracing your illustration, what you're going to do is start working in pen, right? Remember, this is a pen illustration. So I'm going to be using my pen to create value and contrast on here. So my illustration is a lot of x-rays, right? And so as I'm doing this, I'm kind of thinking ahead to how am I going to show those x-rays in an illustration. So I'm going to, and bones. So I'm going to be shading outside the bones so that I have a dark and light effect, right? And you are going to have to make those decisions for yourself and what works best for your image in your illustration. Okay, so once I have this traced, I'm going to go ahead and start thinking about pen. So as I'm thinking about my pen portion, I have to think about what technique was most successful for me, thing one, right? Thing two, what technique do I need to best kind of show any texture or indicate anything like that in my illustration? So it's kind of, I have to kind of plan ahead, right? What's my best texture technique in terms of me doing it, but also what's my best texture technique to show kind of what I need to show on my illustration. So once I have everything transferred, I'm going to go ahead and pull this off, and you can see I have kind of a light version of the illustrations that I had on my sheet of paper over here on my paper. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my pen to begin that shading process. I will probably have to go back and look at my reference photos for where things are dark and where things are light. Like I said before, I need this kind of dark light thing to happen for my x-ray effect. And so I'm kind of thinking about that as I go, and like what technique is going to work best for me. What technique am I going to get like the best? And I might have to combine a couple of techniques, right? So I'm going to just start working with my pen and making sure that I'm using my value technique to kind of show what I want to show and how I can highlight certain areas so they stick out, right? I have an x-ray here, so I'm trying to go around my bones, and that's what's going to work for my illustration. So you have to kind of think about what is your illustration? What do you need to show? And how are you best going to show that using pen and ink? All right. So hopefully you have a chance to get started with this today, and then start working with your pen.